My man! Welcome to the show. How are you? Really excited as a parent and as a person of color to have our guest today. Hey, what's up, everybody? Hey guys, what's up? It's Irfan. Brandee Bauer, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you. And the reason why is, although we've only talked a few times, I'm always impressed with your sense of calm, and just you tend to have just very positive energy. Like if we ever make a mistake, you're like, hey, no worries, I'm sure you'll get to it eventually, and I'm like, wait. And then I had to look up your background. I was like, is she really an attorney? Because she seems incredibly nice. So anyway, thank you for being here. Can you just maybe just provide a little bit of your background and what you do?
Sure. So the current version, just thank you so much for having me on. I think that what you and your company do is awesome. I didn't know what to expect going in, and this is not, the PSA for why everyone should hire you. It's just some truth telling, but I get a lot of credit for what you do because people think that I'm doing it, which is laughable because I could not do any of that. And you guys just really zhuzhed me up, man. You just leveled me up, and it's exactly what I was looking for. And so thank you so much for paying attention to my brand and helping me advance. So my current firm is in asset protection. Okay, well, what's that mean? So primarily what I do is I work with policyholders who have insurance claims, and I make sure that the insurance company fully pays them for the claims that they're filing for structural damage to their home or their business. So that's the main thing that I'm doing. So think of it as you've got a hailstorm and your roof is trashed, or a tree falls on your house, or lightning strikes and it catches on fire, all that kind of stuff. And you've got to file a claim. So my number one thing I'm doing is making sure that you're getting everything that you're entitled to under your policy. Wow.
Okay. Who's your typical audience? I know you mentioned you were homeowners, businesses, but does there tend to be a sweet spot?
Yeah, I would say I work mostly with HOAs and churches. And so, churches are really interesting because obviously they're nonprofit. And so they don't have $2 million in reserve. So if they have the wrong policy, first of all, that can be catastrophic. And they usually don't figure that out until they've got, a big $2 million claim on file. And, that's when they're like, what do you mean, the roof's excluded? How did that happen? So I like to get in earlier than the claim process just to advise them on, first of all, what does your policy say that you currently have? And then does that fit the needs, of your organization based on what may happen? And of course, everybody hopes they never have to use their insurance policy, but that's not reality. And it just seems like it's getting the weather's getting worse and worse. So we've got to pay more attention to the kind of policies that we have. So you don't have to waste your awesome time reading boring insurance policies because you can call me and I'll do it.
Wicked. Okay. So this seems like purpose-driven work from the standpoint of
for sure
the types, the state of mind of your potential clients. Can you talk to me a little bit about what that experience is like, and maybe give me an example of some of the stories that you hear?
Yeah, you bet. I've done a handful of different things because I've been practicing for about 22 years now. And when I was doing personal injury work, you think about it, your body is physically hurt, right? And so there's necessarily a lot of emotion, a lot of crying, a lot of, upheaval. And so when I got into doing property damage work, I thought, okay, there's going to be so much less hand holding. It's going to be more of a business deal. And man, I was totally wrong. Okay, there is so much more crying in property damage than there is to personal injury. And once you sit back and think about it, it makes sense. I mean, most people spend the most money on their homes. And when your home is impacted by a storm and you're living in a hotel or living in a different house, you've got kids, you've got the dogs, the cats, the goldfish, the whole 9 yards. Maybe you don't have a kitchen and you're eating out. And I mean, it's total upheaval and it's a very emotional time. And for the people who are the support system for their families, that could be, the mom figure, the dad figure, the grandparents, whoever it is, they feel like a failure for every minute of every day that they're displaced from their home. And so when they're on month 6, they're just like done. I mean, I talked to a guy yesterday. He's a very well-to-do businessman, and he's trying to close on a house, and he's having some issues with some contamination and some mold and et cetera, et cetera. And so while this is not a straight up insurance claim, I still help anyone who's in that kind of scenario where they're working with, either their policy or, a builder's policy. And he was literally bawling on the phone. And I'm like, you have to come back in from the ledge. We're going to do this as a team. We're going to work together. We're going to get through it. If you can get till Friday, like, you can get into this house. And I mean, he was done. He was spent. He's like, I can't face my family. You're going to have to tell them. I mean, and this is a very strong businessman. You would never guess it. If he was on your podcast, you'd never guess that 2 hours ago, he was on the phone with me crying. You would never guess it. But it just really affects people. And I got into this for a couple of different reasons. But one is I had a tree fall on my house and I thought for sure it was covered, and it wasn't. And then I had to figure out how I'm going to pay out of pocket to get the tree off the house, to get the tree chopped up, to get the roof and the rooms put back together. And that was an expensive lesson I had to learn. And I wanted to make sure that I could do my part in helping other people not have to learn it the hard way that I did, if that makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense. I think it requires a mental toughness from your side, certainly on the client side. But do you find yourself oftentimes as a therapist in some ways? And is that hard to switch between the two? That's a lot of questions rolled up into one. But
well, you know what? I mean, I have 3 practice areas. In all 3 practice areas, I got into them due to personal reasons. And so for each situation that I'm facing with a client, I can empathize because I've been there. It has happened to me. I've been in their shoes and I've gone through the emotional roller coaster that they're on. So what I like to do is really help them treat it like it's a business deal. And so I can tell them, I know exactly how you feel. This is why I know. This is how I know how you feel. But what we have to do is put that on the back burner. We're not going to not deal with it, but like, we have to stay focused. And so that's why I can say, I'm not emotionally attached to your displacement. So I can tell you, here's my advice. You don't have to take it, right? I mean, we're all on the bus together and, you're the driver. I'm giving you directions. You don't have to take them. But when we hit rush hour traffic, because you didn't take the left I suggested, then we'll regroup and we'll pivot and maybe we'll, take a detour. But I try to just make it about the business deal and keep the emotions out of it to the extent that that's possible.
Understood. Now, there's so much variance in every claim, I would imagine.
Yep.
You've got a multitude of different insurance companies. Not only that, but every claim has these nuances, or how the tree fell, or what time of the day it was, or which way the wind was blowing.
Oh, yeah.
So you can't approach your work in the same way every day.
Not at all. And the personalities are all different. The experts are different. The adjusters are different. Most people come to me when they think they have a problem. And so then I have to say, okay, what bells have been rung? What can I unring? And what do we just have to accept and drive forward? So, they are. They're all different.
Gosh. Part of the fun for me is that I get to vicariously live through my clients, so
Yeah.
it's like being on Sesame Street and you go to the candy factory and you see all these things getting done. And as I listen to you talking, I just think, wow, I don't know how I could go through some of the things that you go through, just from the emotional side and the detail oriented investigative work that you have to do, and then the fight that you have to do
Yep.
with the insurance companies, because it's not like these guys aren't lawyered up.
Right.
They've got tons of attorneys on staff that are probably waiting to deal with stuff.
Well, yeah, they
On
get
that,
paid by the hour, right? Come on.
oh my gosh, yeah. When you take a case, what are some criteria that you use to evaluate it before deciding, hey, I'm going to do this or not? And number two, what's your structure like? Is it contingency? Is it retainer? Does it depend on the case? If you could talk to me a little bit about that, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah, I definitely do a hard look at the cases and the people before I decide to get in business with them and represent them. If you call my office and say, hey, I'm having this problem, you're not getting a retainer agreement that day, because I need all of the documents so I can go through them. Because I guarantee you, like, I have never had a case where somebody said, oh, well, this is the current status and this is why, and this is how we got here, and this is exactly what the letter said. I've never had a case where they've been right. And so I like to go through all of the documents myself, the letters, the emails, of course, the policy, whatever is out there, so that I can figure out what I think happened and really how I can help them. I mean, more often than not, people will call my office and I'm trying to, have them help themselves, because it's really not something they need me for. Maybe they need a contractor, so I'll refer them to a contractor. But so I do a lot more referring to different people than accepting cases. And I try to make sure that I get people to people that I would trust, that have worked, say, on my own home or business, or at least, I've had a working relationship with, or something like that. So that's really kind of the first thing. And then as far as what the fee agreement's going to look like, if we get to, the point in the relationship where we've decided to, have a lawyer-client relationship, it really depends. I would say most of my property damage cases are contingent, which is great from the client's perspective, because there's really not a big risk, right? You have X dollars right now, and you can just accept that and drive on, or you can hire me and you only have to pay me if I get you more money. Sounds pretty good, right?
Fair deal.
Then I also do estate planning, so wills and trusts and different things like that. And then I also do some business law. And so those are kind of a combination of hourly and flat fee, depending on what we're doing. And honestly, a lot of times I'll tell the client that here's what I think you need. And if everything goes as planned, it'll take me, X hours. If it doesn't go as planned, it'll take me more. And a lot of times I just let them pick, like, it's your cost benefit analysis to do. You want to do the flat fee, or do you want to do the hourly? And then we just kind of talk about it and come to our conclusion together.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that level of detail. Can you give an example of just the messiest situation, whether it was the client or the actual claim, and why did it go sideways, and how did you overcome it?
Oh man, there's so many examples to pull from. One thing that's really interesting, I told you I work with a lot of HOAs. And so, some will have 8, 10, 15, 20 board members, and they, vote pursuant to their bylaws. And a lot of them are kind of a majority vote, or, 2/3 of however many people are there. And then they've got, the requirement for number of people that have to be voting. And so there have been some really heated discussions with board members that are really on different sides of an issue. So, for example, if an HOA has the wrong kind of insurance policy, and there's nothing I can do about it at the time because the storm event has already happened. There's a lot of, well, we should have done this and we could have done this. And it's like, guys, man, like, we're already down the road. Okay. The policy is what we have. We can deal with the repercussions of getting the wrong thing later. But yeah, I mean, there are some stories that I cannot tell you that come out of those meetings with the board, and then fallout with different people that really should not have been in charge of procuring insurance because they had no idea. And then sometimes it's progressed. This is rare, but sometimes it progresses to where the agent or the broker that they bought the policy from just really missed the mark. And, I'll have an email saying, please make sure we get a replacement cost policy. And the agent, does actual cash value. And that's a major difference when there's a claim. And so then that's a huge mess. And it's like, well, the broker's my, cousin's best friend. And what are we going to do? I'm like, it's business. You tell me, man. You've got a fiduciary duty. So you tell me what you want to do.
Wow. That require. I mean, you're not. I mean, you have no problem with confrontation. Clearly, you can deal with that pretty easily. It seems like you just kind of grew up in that, in the ability to take problems head on and get to the bottom of things.
Well, here's the secret, and I think lawyers don't tell you this, and you don't think about it. For most people, I mean, I know you are a lawyer as well, but when people think about it, they think, oh, lawyers just want to fight and this and that and the other thing, and that's what they're good at, and that's why they're doing this. But we're fighting for other people when we're doing those things.
Sure.
When I have to fight for myself, not as good, let me tell you. When I have something that I have to solve, some problem I have to solve for myself, I hire my own lawyers.
I've never heard that. That's really insightful and helpful. That's good to know.
Because if I'm helping you with your home, I don't have to be emotional about it because I don't live there. And I like you and I want to help you and I want to do my best for you and your family, but I'm not going home to your house. But when I am going home to my house and the problem is there, I'm emotional about it and I'm opinionated about it. And I need someone to be businesslike about it instead. So,
right.
A fool for a client, I guess, is what they say. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot easier to help someone with their problem than it is to help yourself with your own. So
that's insightful. Thank you. Let's switch gears a little bit. So it's the year's 1989. You're at Baylor University, and you're studying marketing and business. And it seems like I remember when I was in college, everyone who was a freshman was at least in the group that I was in was all about, well, I'm going to study poli-sci. I'm going to go work. I'm going to go help my dad out. And then I'm going to go make X amount of money at the law firm down the street. And my dad's in the country, whatever. I'd love to hear your story because you're what was that word? I'm losing. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's that maverick. You're a little bit of a maverick. I feel like that way. I might not be right, but walk me through that journey.
Yeah, no, I mean, college was awesome. I loved going to Baylor. It was so beautiful and the people were so nice. I have been so blessed with the friendships that I took away from Baylor. In fact, right now I'm at a friend's beach house down in Florida, and we just had her big birthday celebration, and there are 8 of us that are still best friends to this day. And so I guess I couldn't say I was looking for that when I went to college, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't trade what I have with my friendships with these ladies or any big job or any country club or any of that. But when I went down, it was great because I guess maybe I was being maverick-like. Thank you for that compliment. But I didn't know anybody. It was a really good school and it was beautiful and warm and sunny. And so I thought, yeah, I should definitely go there. They had a really good business school and that's what I was going to major in. And I knew I wanted to go to law school, but I didn't want to do any kind of pre-law stuff. So yeah, I wanted to go and get a business degree and have as much fun as possible while I was doing it. So that's what I did.
Okay, so you graduated from business school, and then
Yep.
you spent you didn't go directly to law school. You actually, what did you do after?
Yeah, I was not ready to do the level of studying that was required for law school, and I didn't want to go and screw it up. So I took 4 years off, and I had a couple of different jobs during that time. But I did put my degree to use. I actually did use my marketing degree, and I worked at two different marketing companies. And yeah, I mean, it was not as much fun as college. Definitely working is not as much fun. I listen to all the kids, they're like, oh, I can't wait to get out of school. I'm like, man, can I go back? That was so much better than this.
Hilarious. That's awesome. And then you're like, you know what? I think I'm going to go back and get my law degree, and that's what you did. Now,
Yeah, it was time.
who put what was the catalyst for going to law school or going down that career path?
You know, there wasn't really one event per se. I don't have any lawyers in the family. So it wasn't the family business by any means, but I really can't remember not wanting to be an attorney. I did not, lay awake at night dreaming and praying to do property damage law. Don't get me wrong. I was going to be a prosecutor and go into the FBI. So it was going to be a lot more exciting than reading insurance policies. But yeah, it's just kind of what I always wanted to do. So.
Let's say there's somebody looking at, listening into this podcast who is similar to you, doesn't come from a family of lawyers, and thinking about, gosh, I don't know if I've got what it takes, or I'm not sure if I'm ready. What advice would you give to them?
I think you have to look at it again with kind of a cost benefit analysis, because you are going to spend a ton of money going to law school, and you get the pleasure of paying that back. I am still paying off my law school loans, big party in 2030, right? So you have to make sure that is what you want to do, but you can do it. I have seen so many different types of people go to law school and find success, and there's so many different ways to use a law degree. And I will say, like, going to law school in and of itself is the most fun. If I could go back and do that as a profession, I would 100% be a professional law student. But yeah, if that's something you're interested in, again, make sure the financial part works out for you, but totally go for it.
Awesome. Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Good advice. What keeps you up at night?
I'm really working a lot with mindset and energy and intentions. 22 has really been an awesome year for me to really understand that the doctrine of sacrifice is just total crap, and that you are a lot better equipped to help people when you have also helped yourself. And it's that whole thing of when you're on an airplane and, something goes awry, put your mask on before someone else, because if you're the helper and you're not wearing your mask, you're probably going to pass out, and then you won't be able to help anybody. And so I've really, really been working on that this year. And so when there is a time at night where I'm awake, I try to figure out, okay, why is that? What am I spinning on? And if it's something that I can just write down and kind of put over here to the side and go to sleep, I try to do that, because when you, at least for me, if you stay awake at night, you're shitty the next morning, right? And you just can't get it done. And then it's like, oh man, and now I'm even worse off than I was. But if it is something that I really kind of want to spin on, I really try to get all of the emotions out of it and look at just the facts. Okay. What are the things that I know for sure? Not the stuff I made up in my mind, not the stuff, the little voice inside my head, who I've named Scarlett, not what she's telling me. What are the actual facts? Because when you put emotions on top of it, you're slanting the version of the facts to be what you've emotionally decided, right? So what I try to do is just get rid of all of that noise and just say, what do I actually know to be true? And then I find that I can figure out what the best resolution is and then put it to bed and put me to bed. So normally, topic-wise, what I'm spinning out on is some kind of business decision. It's rarely a personal issue. It's rarely a business. It's usually a business issue, but that's why I try to just take that emotion out, look at the facts, and then drive on.
Very cool. You have a in all the times I've ever talked to you, and to the extent that I've gotten to know you, you just seem to be a very reasonable and balanced person with a sense of calm. And that's just something that I appreciate, because we all, I think, have a degree of chaos under which we work. And it's nice to be able to have somebody to talk to that you can bounce stuff off of, and their vibe is similar. So that's really cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
Talk to me a little bit about, in terms of ideal client. I know you mentioned business owners, but in terms of a profile, right? Like demographically, what part of the country, what size of business, etc.
Sure. So my main office is in Kansas City, Missouri. Okay. And so go Chiefs, even though, man, we're coming off a loss. That's all right. My, I guess, ideal avatar is somebody who's residing or owns a business in Missouri. I do practice in other states. I'm licensed in other states, and then I also have local counsel that I work with. So, but yeah, so I guess main client would be in Missouri, and it would be probably, like I said, an HOA. Although I have very small homeowner claims that I work on as well, so I don't want to leave them out of it. But as for my avatar, yeah, I mean, it would be somebody that's at an HOA or church that has a relatively new problem, issue, claim, etc., so that I can help them from the beginning before we get too far in with hiring the wrong guys and losing money and all that kind of thing. And someone who has, a covered claim, or at least a claim that they think is covered, because it's always sucks to give somebody bad news. Like, yes, you're right, you have $2 million worth of damage and none of it's covered. I mean, that's not my best day, but yeah, I mean, I would say for property damage claims, it's an HOA or a church somewhere in Missouri.
Very cool. Okay, cool. So I know that this year, 2022, was awesome for you. What are your plans for your practice, for yourself, 2023, maybe beyond? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So I'm expanding this year, and definitely more so into next year. I'd like to keep adding personnel so that I can help more people, because I'm a limited soul, and my team right now is limited. And if we're at capacity, then that tells me there's still more people out there that need our assistance. And so that's what I plan to do going in. So I'm gearing up for that now, but going into 23 is really being able to hire more people and build out the team so that there are more people that we can service. I fairly recently, as of, over the summer, I guess, added estate planning back into the business. And that really came from a personal place as well. And I didn't realize, it's kind of that thing where you think you're 25 and then you're 35, but you think you're 25 and then you're 40 and you think, anyway, sure. You wake up one day and you're like, crap, I'm not 25 and I need to adult. And it's like, I need a will, I need a trust, I need powers of attorney for healthcare, I need this, I need that. And, I got to talking to all my friends that are in that same position. It's like, man, we're not adulting well. And so I added that back into my practice because there's so many people who are doing the same thing, because you think you're fine until you have a health scare. You think you're fine until you wake up one day and say, oh my God, I turned 50. How did this happen to me? And then you realize, man, it's time to get some stuff together. So I have my ideal avatar for that as well.
Okay. That brings up another question. What do you, in terms of misconceptions of working with you, whether it's for maybe it's 3 misconceptions due to your core practice areas, but where do you think the folks that come to you are misinformed the most?
I would say the number one thing is probably they will have, and I'm just, grouping things together,
Sure.
and generalizing, but I would say the most common issue that I see people facing is they will have oral conversations with an insurance adjuster, and they're told, this is covered, that's covered, this is not a problem. Yeah, go ahead and hire that contractor and we'll pay for that and blah, blah, blah. And they hear it as they hear it, okay? And then they act upon what they think is happening. And then they get a letter in the mail and it's completely, opposite, if you will, from what the adjuster had told them. So then they're coming to me saying, saying, hey, they told me they were going to cover this. Now they're not going to. I don't have 10 grand. What am I going to do? So I think that's one of the main misconceptions that I have to deal with. This is great for the podcast. It's just me, it's me talking, man. This is going to be like your highest rated show ever.
I think so.
Yeah, man. Listen in for more coughing. But really, it's just that. It's people trying to understand that maybe the process is not fair. And maybe what someone tells you is not the same thing that they write you in a letter, and that the one in the letter is the one that they're going to go with. And they'll say, oh, but when they were here, they said, I'm like, that doesn't matter now. Like, that ship has sailed.
Wow.
So
that's completely legal to do. And it seems like they just want to get the deal or whatever. That's just how they work. And it's not great.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I'm picking on an insurance adjuster, and keep in mind, there are a lot of great insurance companies out there with great insurance adjusters, and I never meet them. They are not people that I work with. Right? They're taking care of their clients, and so I have no interaction with them whatsoever. The ones that I'm interacting with are when there's a problem, Right. So I do want to point that out as well. I'm not, beating up on everyone who's, everybody knows an insurance adjuster. They're probably very nice, and I'll probably never meet them unless it's at a, cocktail party or some kind of event. But,
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's the one thing that, people have misconceptions about is, well, somebody told me that, and so that's just how it is.
Awesome. All right. So we've got about a couple minutes left, and I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give to people who are facing an issue with either hail damage, their roof caved in on their business, any number of different scenarios? What are the maybe 3 steps that they should take right when it happens?
Sure. Documentation is really important. And I would write stuff down, write what you're seeing, write your version of what had happened. I would definitely photo document, take photographs, take videos, and try not to skip any part of the room, because the part of the room you skip, that'll be the part that'll be really important. So I can't tell you how many times I've seen that. Like, here's the 10 pictures I took. And I'm like, well, what's just here to the right? Oh, well, that's such and such. I'm like, that's the part we need. But yeah, take too many pictures and videos and really look at it like it's a business deal, and make sure that it seems on the up and up and it seems okay. And, try to get everything in writing so you can have less, miscommunications and misunderstandings. And at the first sign of trouble, contact someone to help you. And that could be someone like me, that's an attorney. It could be a contractor that you trust that, had put an addition on your home or whatever it is. But like, get someone in your corner that can speak to you from a business perspective about this emotional problem that you're having, and do it sooner than later, because there's so many people that call me and they're like, well, all of this has happened. And I'm like, okay, well, did you sign anything? Yes. Well, then that's what we're stuck with then. So I'm not saying run out and hire a lawyer. I don't mean that, but definitely make sure that you're looking at it through your business lens and you're documenting everything, doing everything in writing. And I mean, if you call me and I tell you it's too early in the process and you don't need me yet, I mean, what'd you waste? 3 minutes? And you got to talk to me. Maybe I coughed on the phone like I'm doing here. I mean, who doesn't want to miss out on that?
Yes.
So,
Wow. Awesome. Gosh, how can people connect with you?
sure.
Or what's the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say you can check out my website and you can make an appointment to talk to me through my website, which is bowerlawfirm.com. Or you can give me a ring on the phone, and that's 816-608-3600. Or you can shoot me an email, and that's info@bowerlawfirm.com.
Brilliant. Brandee, thank you.
And then
What?
check out my social media posts, which are amazing. And you can get to me through those. And I do the TikToks myself, I think. But pretty much everything else I would say is done professionally by Rooster.
Brandee, you're such a sweet person. You're the best. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. All right, guys.